fans, wherever you may be. Welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Join your host, Bill Alvstad, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football.
Hey Seahawks fans, welcome back to another edition of the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers. Welcome to the show, Keith, the midweek show.
Yeah, our midweek show. We are going through today. We're going to talk about some rookies, talk about some running back options. But first, we've got news. So, a lot of roster moves this week.
Yeah, a couple things. You know, we've experienced in one of the parts of this show, in addition to catching up with all the rookies, the rookie class, and kind of getting an update on that, is we're going to take a look at the running back room as well. And we've had some injuries, as everyone knows. And they went out and signed a guy today in Wayne Gallman. Been around a little bit, was with Clemson's national championship roster in 2017. Came into the league as a fourth-round draft pick, into the Giants. Has like 365 career touches for 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns. Had a career game against the Seahawks a couple of years ago. Some Seahawks fans might remember that. The Giants came in with Colt McCoy and beat the Seahawks, surprised the Seahawks at home, then 8-4 Seattle, and had like 140 yards rushing on 16 carries, something like that. So that's some news. He's signed to the practice squad. I don't know if that necessarily dictates that he would be on the active roster on Sundays, but depending on what's going on with Homer and Dallas and, of course, Kenneth Walker, he could see some action just to kind of get us through a couple weeks until Ken Walker comes back. Sounds like Pete Carroll is not too concerned. It's not as serious as it could have been. It's not a high ankle sprain. It's not a lateral regular ankle sprain. It's more of a kind of a bruise and a strain in the lower ankle. And
yeah, what I read on
just needs to work through it.
What I read on NFL.com is it's like he jammed it, like when you jam a finger and you don't actually do any damage, but everything kind of swells up because the bones hit each other and that kind of stuff. He did that in his ankle, is what it said. And honestly, I'm going to agree with Pete Carroll. I don't think I've ever heard of a player doing that with his ankle. So that's an odd injury. So we'll see how it heals and when he's ready to go. Yeah,
Pete said if he responds to treatment, he's good to go this week. If not, he may take a week or two. It's one of those things where I think you just kind of have to play through it. You kind of play through that pain, and it just kind of gets better on its own after a little bit of time. I don't know if he could re-aggravate that or not. It's pretty unusual. He would have to kind of hit it at the same spot in the same way to kind of make it any worse. It sounds like. So we'll see. I'm expecting him to play, to be completely honest. Let's see what else is going on.
DJ Dallas has a ligament, a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
And so he's out. Well, not out. He's actually day to day. It's not as bad as they thought. He looked like he was going to be out a while when he couldn't walk off the field, but it's a minor strain. So he could be back relatively soon, or this could linger, because an ankle injury like that is one that you can't cut because you just can't plant on it. So we'll see how long it takes him to get back.
And then Josh Jones was put on injured reserve today. So the team went out and found a replacement in Jonathan Abram, former first-round draft pick of the Las Vegas Raiders, and comes in just to kind of be another option for Seattle to turn to. Guy that's not lived up to his first-round status, but is a good hitting safety, good tackler, but very poor in coverage. So likely near the line of scrimmage, similar to what Josh Jones was doing for the team. And so it's another option for them. Tease Tabor had quite a few snaps in this last game, and maybe Jonathan Abram would be a slight upgrade there, but we just don't know. I don't expect him to play significant snaps, at least early
Well,
going in
yeah.
this thing.
I mean, we don't know what kind of shape he was in. He was just out there as a,
He's been on
you know,
practice
free
squad
agent.
until a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you've got, it's really what it comes down to, what we're talking about with all these injuries and whatnot. Seahawks have had reasonable luck with injuries so far this year. You know, I mean, both the receivers got hurt, but neither one missed time. Their offensive line's been relatively healthy. They've been relatively lucky, and eventually they're going to regress to the mean a little bit, and losing both your top two running backs. Well, really your 1 and 3 running backs, because your number 2 is Penny, and he's out already. And yeah, it's hard. They might get Homer back. He was out with an illness, so he'll be back perhaps if he's feeling better. And then of course there's always Darwin Thompson, who's I keep forgetting about. He's sitting down on the practice squad. He might actually be the first guy that comes up before Gallman, as an opportunity to, get some touches.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's all we had in the news. I noticed that Tariq Woolen was nominated for Rookie of the Week. Again, I think that's his second time that he's done that, as well as NFC Defensive Rookie Player of the Week, something like that. So good for him. And we're talking about rookies today, just kind of going through our draft class to kind of find out where the rookies have been, where they've stacked up, how they're doing, how they've affected the team, and so forth. So kind of a fun show today to look at that. And then we'll talk about Ken Walker. Well, we kind of talked about that as well already. So most offensive and defensive snaps played by rookies in the NFL. Seattle leads in both those categories, which is crazy. So we're number 1, Houston's number 2, Chicago 3 in that. And we've got well over 2,000 total snaps played by our rookies.
Yeah, you've got, I mean, Houston and Chicago are bad, and they're going to be picking, right up there with Denver.
1, 2,
yeah.
possibly.
And so they're playing a lot of rookies because they just don't have talent. The Seahawks are a good team that are, fighting for a playoff spot. They're in playoff position right now. So the fact that they're getting this much impact from a rookie class is kind of phenomenal.
Yeah, it makes it really fun. I mean, Pete Carroll's always played rookies to a certain extent, but there's been some positions in the past where you've just kind of wondered why he hasn't played guys more often. In fact, I wondered sometimes too, looking just at Boy Mafe, we'll talk about him in just a second, why his snap count isn't higher. But when it comes to the 2 tackles on this in this draft class that Seattle picked up, they've played almost every single snap on offense so far, and have gone without any injuries, knock on wood. And the play has just been phenomenal, at least league average. And for rookies, that's great. And sometimes that play, especially with Abe Lucas, has been even better. He's kind of in a almost fringe top 10 category as far as pass block win rates and so forth at right tackle. And couldn't have asked for a better combo than we've got in Seattle now, and looks like we'll have for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Charles Cross at 99.7% of the snaps, and Abe Lucas at 100. Like, he's played every snap. So
Yeah.
that's crazy. I mean, that means both of them have been healthy. They've been out there. I mean, we've seen some rookie stuff. Abe Lucas got beat up on by Crosby in that at the very end of the Raiders game, which cost Seattle a chance to come back and win that one at the end. And Charles Cross has had a few plays like that too. But overall, over the course of all the games that we've seen so far, the 2 of them have been the best 2 offensive linemen on Seattle's team. And they've been, just a nice, stable thing that Seahawks haven't had tackles like that in a while.
Yeah, both consistent. It's funny, they both have 6 penalties, although Charles Cross had 5 of them in one game or something like that, right? Early on in the season. 6 penalties overall, so he hasn't really, that's not been an issue since that time. 5 sacks allowed, 34 total pressures. You'd like to see him improve on that. I think he will over time. You go through an entire next off-season strength training and so forth. And he just really kind of then steps into that role as far as, being that solidified left tackle. And expectations kind of go up for him. And I think his play will improve over time in that way. And then, as far as Abe Lucas, also 6 penalties, 6 sacks, 23 total pressures. So a little bit better overall on the pass blocking, and run blocking has just been outstanding for Abe Lucas, higher than we expected early on. And then I expect him to get better as well. There's a lot of pride there. There's a lot of continuity that Seattle will have over time at those 2 spots. And I think, man, I just couldn't even imagine it working out any better than it has for Seattle.
Yeah. It's worked out fantastic. I mean, both of them have been good. And I think some fans have this Walter Jones syndrome in terms of expecting an offensive tackle to come in and be a Pro Bowler on day one. And that just doesn't happen. I mean, Walter Jones is arguably the best ever. So comparing anybody to him is kind of unfair. Look around the league at the other first round tackles. The other guys taken this year, the guys taken last year, where they are in their development, what they're doing. And Cross and Lucas are up there as 2 of the best, 2 of the very best. So
absolutely,
yeah, they've both been home runs. They really have.
Yeah, which is just nuts. Considering Abe Lucas was the 72nd overall pick in the draft. He's outperforming nearly everyone and literally everyone, including Cross, on a couple different categories. So it's just crazy. The other player I mentioned earlier, Boye Mafe, it's interesting because he was our 2nd round, 40th pick overall in the draft. 6'4", 261 pounds. He's got 27 combined tackles, 2 sacks, 8 pressures. He's graded out better against the run than he has even as a pass rusher, which I think is just interesting to me because you take a look at the way he played in the Senior Bowl and the Combine, shows super athletic ability, good trades as far as his bend and flexibility and his torque and ability to get around the edge. Yet that hasn't been what Seattle's really kind of wanted out of him or what he's excelled at with Seattle so far. What are you seeing out of Boye Mafe?
I see a guy who's learning a position. He doesn't get to put his hand on the ground and just go after a quarterback as a 7 tech or Leo style defensive end. Now he's up, he's back, he's doing things with coverage. He's got to set an edge. He's got to do a lot more. He's got to read what's going on and react a lot faster. And the game is a lot faster in the NFL than it is in college. So I think he's a guy that's growing into the league a little bit. And it's, he's only playing, 37.2% of the snaps. So he's not getting to be out there as much as I think you and I kind of expected him to be. But
he only had 15 snaps in this last game, which I thought was just kind of.
Yeah, they're asking a lot from him. They really are. They want him to go be the full package and not just be, hey, we're going to use you as a pass rusher only, and then you're going to come off the field. They want him to be able to do everything. And I think they're kind of easing him into that and giving him opportunities to play, learn, and not, sacrifice play on the field while he's learning.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so what do you expect in year 2?
I expect him to take over that starting job and just it be his, right? I mean, he's going to rotate through. It's not because that's the way Seattle does it. So there will be some rotation at that spot, but the team won't need a Bruce Irvin to come in and hold it down for the most part. And I'll let Mafe, have 15, 20 snaps a game. Mafe is just going to be the guy. I really, that's what he needs to be. That's where he should be. And if he does, if he's learning anything right now, and if he's watches the film of his play during the offseason, I think he's going to learn and be ready to go and be the guy on the edge.
Yeah, it's interesting because Seattle has really kind of struggled in a couple different categories. They've done well in stretches, getting to the passer, affecting getting pressure and affecting timing and so forth. Other times they've just disappeared altogether in a few games. And then defending the run, which Mafe looks like he's one of our better players doing. He's on the field 15 snaps, so he's not out there able to set the edge and do that from that position. So I do expect him to step up next year. We need him to step up. I would imagine they also address that position, or not just that position, but all across the defensive line in the draft and in free agency, because we've just got to get better. The last 3 games, we've averaged 170 yards rushing against us, and it's just been awful. Okay. Kobe Bryant. So we didn't talk about Ken Walker. Drafted 41st overall. Ken Walker has just been great. He's got 650 yards overall so far, 4.7 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns. He's got 35 forced missed tackles and 3.08 yards after contact. Also, almost 20 receptions for 116 yards. So he's met every expectation I think that I had of him. I thought Penny would probably get a lion's share of carries this year, and then Ken Walker would kind of take over halfway through the year. It's a little earlier than that with Penny going out completely, and now he's hurt a little bit. Need him down the stretch, though, for Seattle to be effective at all if we get to the playoffs and want to do anything while we're there. I'm not hearing you, Keith. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. So Ken Walker has he has played 50.9% of the snaps, which, okay, about half of them. He barely got on the field in the first 3 games, right? And then even then, like, the team goes, with 5 wides, no running backs at times. Travis Homer comes in as a 3rd down back, when he's healthy and out there. DJ Dallas has got some play as well. And overall, you look at that, that's 50%, and that's quite a bit. Early on, when he first took over, he was lighting up the scoreboard. I mean, he was a guy that was just, every time he got the ball, you could see there was a chance for him to go to the distance. The last 3 or 4 weeks, that hasn't been the case. A lot of 1.7, 1.9, 2.1. Those are 3 of the 4, yard per carry averages in games up until his injury. So, yeah, I personally feel, and from what I was seeing on the tape, I think that's more of an interior offensive line problem. But at the same time, like, this team needs a lot more out of the running game than those numbers.
If I was defending Seattle, I would certainly try to shut down the run. They've got an opportunity to beat their interior offensive line pretty easily. So that's one way to be able to do it. And then, you keep Ken Walker contained, and it's all on Geno. And when you make any offense one-dimensional in the NFL, it's difficult to win. Geno was able to do it against the depleted Rams. Had a hell of a game this last game. But when you're talking about down the stretch, I had written down here somewhere. Maybe I can find that really quick, where I was talking about, the teams that we're going to face down the stretch are all decent run defending teams. I think the worst one was 15th ranked defending the run defense in the NFL out of the next 5 games, and 3 top 10 defending the run teams. So Seattle needs to figure it out. And if Ken Walker isn't available, it's going to be real difficult. Even with Ken Walker, it seems like it's going to be a decent challenge for Seattle's offensive line to make sure that they're solid, if not spectacular, because I think if we develop a running game where Walker's a threat to break away at any point in the game, that's a huge opportunity for Seattle to take advantage of. And if we're not doing that, it's just going to be really hard.
Yeah.
And Ken Walker's, got a bright future here. But I do think that we're probably looking at an upgrade in the offseason as far as the center, and maybe at least one guard spot.
Yeah. Like I said, the running game isn't doing what it needed, but I don't put most of that on Ken Walker. I put most of that on the offensive line, especially the interior guys. He's been great when given the opportunity and a little bit of blocking.
So moving on, cornerback Kobe Bryant is the next player up. He was drafted at 109 overall in the 4th round. He's been playing okay. 42 solo tackles, 56 targets, 42 receptions allowed on those targets with a grade of 55.4 Pro Football Focus. Passer rating allowed 110.4. Does have 4 forced fumbles. And a solid tackler, physical player. But once in a while, he gets picked on. And it's hard to watch sometimes, but I get it. He's learning the position. He never had played that nickel spot before, and it takes a little bit of time. And I just don't know if he has the agility that some of the other players asked to play that spot do. Before this, he was an outside corner, and that requires a certain skill set. It's completely new thinking when you move inside, and we'll see.
I think he has, because we've seen him do well at times in that role. I think it's just more of when you are on the boundary, right? You have that sideline to help you. When you're playing in the slot, you don't, and so you have to be better at reading the feet and body of the receiver, and that's a skill that I think he's learning, and he's struggling with at times, and other times he does pretty well. So he has played 67.8% of the snaps this year.
Yeah, they've asked him to just jump right in.
Yeah, I mean that's more than I thought, especially considering like he didn't play well the first couple games. He got benched, and then got a chance to come back. And when he came back, he was looking a lot better. He still has lapses, but overall he's been doing all right.
Is this one of those spots that you can't completely just evaluate him in a silo? It also requires you to evaluate the players around him because of the zone scheme that they play quite often in and around the middle of the field. He's taken handoffs, handing off receivers quite often. And that requires a certain level of communication, understanding of the scheme completely, and trust in other players, also trust in him to be able to make plays and so forth and be where he's supposed to be. How does that factor into this?
Oh, it's completely factors into this. That's part of what he's learning is just how to do that, how to communicate that. He can't just, release a wide receiver to, the next guy over sometimes, because the next guy over might be a linebacker who's got responsibilities on a running back, right? So he's got to know when to carry a receiver and when to release them. And there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things going on. And it's one of those things that you, as a middle defender, as a safety or a slot corner, it just takes a while. There's a lot of work that goes into doing what these guys do.
So this next player, I've just literally made the determination here this last couple days, and after doing a little bit of research for this show, that we're now talking about, I think, the best defender on Seattle's defense in cornerback Tariq Woolen, 6'4", 205, drafted him in the 5th round, 153 overall. He's got 40 solo tackles, a bunch of other combo tackles, 6 interceptions, ties for the league in the NFL, not just for rookies. The entire NFL sits tied for 4th in passes defended, 51 targets, 21 receptions allowed, 12 passes defended, ranks 4th in the league. I said that. Grades out at a 72 overall Pro Football Focus, 52.8 quarterback ranking, while targeted, ranks 3rd in the league. Against the Rams, Tariq Woolen had 1 catch allowed, an interception, 2 forced incompletions, and an 11.5 passer rating allowed. I mean, the kid's just been so consistent week in, week out. I think he's our best player. I mean, Uchenna Nwasu is another guy, obviously, with 9 sacks so far this year. But man, I just don't know what to say about a rookie with these kind of stats and this kind of performance. It's just astounding to me.
Yeah, I don't know nationally if people have taken notice of just how good this kid is. But if they have, if someone's pointing it out, this is a Pro Bowl guy in his rookie season at a position where it generally takes guys 2 years plus before they really hit their stride and show exactly what they can do. It's not a position where you come in and just excel from day one. Now you can come in and
unless
excel.
you're just a prodigy and you're a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I mean,
like
you can
Sauce
come in.
Gardner.
You can come in and excel for a rookie, but that's not what Woolen is doing. And Sauce Gardner is actually playing out of his mind as well.
He is.
But both of them, they're not just playing well for a rookie; they're playing really well for an NFL corner, and that is very uncommon, even amongst guys that are top 5 picks.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to watch. I mean, you're already seeing the effect. He was targeted, what did I say? Only 4 times in the Rams game, 1 catch allowed, 1 interception, 2 forced incompletions. I mean, there's a reason he used to be targeted 8-9 times a game, in the first 2-3 games, and now it's down to like 4 or 3, and for those 4 attempts, quarterbacks are paying the price. 2 forced incompletions, an interception. He's basically just nullifying one half of the field, just like Richard Sherman did. By the time that Richard Sherman ended his rookie campaign, he was to this level as well. And I would almost argue that Tariq Woolen is looking better as a rookie than Richard Sherman did as a rookie. And Richard Sherman was fabulous.
Yeah, and you saw the growth from Sherman from year 1 to year 2, and the growth again from year 2 to year 3.
Right.
Year 3 was that year where, honestly, he might have been the best outside defender in the NFL. That wasn't to say that he wasn't great the previous 2 years, but there were other people on par with him. But he continued to elevate his play because cornerbacks do that. It's one of those positions that you see development over time, a lot like defensive line. And a lot like the offensive line, which is part of the reason why you and I keep raving about the offensive tackles. These are positions where it takes time to learn the game and develop as a player.
Well, speaking of learning the game, this is equivalent to Tariq Woolen's junior year in college. He only played 2 years at the cornerback position prior to entering the NFL. And a total of 15 games. I mean, that's absurd. And it's just, he's literally doing this year just on physical ability, just on a sheer talent that he brings to the table, where he doesn't completely know the scheme, just like Kobe Bryant doesn't know the scheme or any other rookie. So he's just playing it just on talent. And when he knows the scheme and he knows the handoffs and he can read defenses better and he knows what to expect, what quarterbacks are trying to challenge and what wide receivers are doing, to set him up and so forth. I mean, he's not perfect. You go out and watch the film. He's missing assignments. He's allowing receivers to get behind him. But his physical ability allows him to play catch up, to go and his length to tip passes, to make plays, to get those interceptions. I'm just can hardly wait until he learns the game.
As he continues to learn and as he continues to watch film and whatever, what you're going to start to see is him do the same thing that Sherman used to do, and that is bait quarterbacks, where he'll make a guy look slightly open to try and get them to throw the ball, and when he knows where everything is and he can move over and get that interception. Sherman was a master at that.
Yeah.
And Woolen's not there yet, but you kind of get the feeling he's gonna be. He's just he's so much talent. It's just crazy.
Fun. My favorite rookie by far, I think, and I love those 2 tackles. But man, the guy's just so much fun to watch. All right, the other player that we had didn't make it out of training camp. In fact, only made it out of 2 practices. Was Tariq Smith, the 6'3", 245-pound edge rusher that we drafted in the 5th round as well, just a few picks after Woolen from Ohio State. The rub on this guy was he had a 4.8 40, and his 7-yard split, 10-yard split was 1.72, which is just not good. Anything over 1.5 for a player like this is going to be subpar, and 1.72 is getting close to where offensive linemen are running. And so that's the deal with him. But his agility is really off the charts. And he's and his quickness and his bend and so forth, that's kind of where he won battles when he was playing in college. But out injured, on injury reserve for the year. He'll come back next year. It's just like having a new draft pick next year. Guy's going to be in the program. He's going to have all that weight training, build up some speed, maybe put on a little bit of weight. He's kind of a tweener. When you take a look at him, he's 245 pounds at 6'3", but with that slow speed, they may want to have him bulk up a little bit. They might even have him take a look at inside linebacker at that size with that speed and so forth, because he's not going to have that elite speed or twitch that like a Boye Mafe would have. But he also doesn't have the bulk to play Uchenna Nwasu's spot. So what are you going to do?
Well, I think that what you do with a guy like him is you do added some weight to him. You get him up to 260 pounds, and you use him as a situational pass rusher as a defensive end, not as an outside linebacker in this 3-4, but as a defensive end. So you'd get a guy like, Poona Ford that would come off the field in 3rd and long, and you put him in there because he's the agility. He's not fast, but his first step is really quick, so he can get into that gap before the guard and center move, and that's what this team needs. And I think if you put him in there and you give him a chance to get pressure that way, you can get a lot out of it. Now, it's a 5th round pick. You're not asking most 5th round picks to do starter load things, and so I think it ends up being, if they get that out of him, where he becomes a situational pass rusher, a guy who plays 30% of the snaps and just gets after quarterbacks.
Yes.
From that 5-tech spot.
That's exactly right.
Honestly, that's a win.
I put in my notes, Keith, and you could probably relate to this, that his ceiling may be a player like Benson Mayowa, which would be great. He's a specialist. He's a special teams player and Benson Mayowa has played in 115 career games. So you get a guy that takes 30-40% of the snaps max. And, you mentioned the agility and the quick first step. He did have a 4.24 short shuttle and a 7.06 3-cone, which are 80 percentile for his size and weight.
Yeah, that 3-cone is right up there with wide receivers and cornerbacks.
Exactly. And so you get a guy like that can move around laterally close to the line of scrimmage, and you've got a guy that can maybe beat guys off the edge and beat guys up the middle with a nice swim move or a combo. And so it's just a matter of building strength for him, putting on a little bit of weight, like you said, and maybe you develop him into a Benson Mayowa kind of guy, just a specialist that comes in. He's not a 3-down player. I don't think he'll ever be a 3-down player unless somehow or another he was injured, which I do not have any information on that really pushed that 40-time number out, because that's why he fell in the draft. All right. 2 guys in the 7th round that we drafted, Bo Melton and Tariq Young, both wide receivers. One of them has had some time on the active roster, and Tariq Young, who I think has the higher upside of the 2, and then Bo Melton, the 5'11", 190-pound guy with the speed, ran a 4.3, 4.40, the 38-inch vertical, the 6.98 3-cone. So he'd be a great slot guy. And he just hasn't been able to even come up for a single game off the practice squad, although they've kept him around. I just don't know that if he makes the roster next year.
But then you look at, as things have happened, they went and they added Laquan Treadwell,
right?
instead of bringing him up. And so that's usually not a good sign that a guy that is just almost completely washed out of the league, like Treadwell, is now getting snaps and touches, and Melton can't even see the field.
Yes.
Drake
And
Young
Drake Young, similar. I mean, Drake Young has not really taken any snaps on the offense, but he has been a great special teams guy.
Yeah, 6.6% of the snaps, which is very little.
Very little.
And there were a couple,
but there's still an opportunity for him to develop.
There's a couple of games
Drake Young,
where guys got banged up and missed some time, and then those are the ones when he got almost all of his offensive snaps. And he's still big, he's still fast, he's still really strong.
He's kind of like a Deebo Samuel light. I mean, he had a lot of that experience in college. It'd be kind of cool, especially with our issues in the running back room, to maybe take a look at some of those things with Drake Young. In fact, you could even line him up in the backfield once in a while. And he's got that kind of ability, but we just haven't had a chance to see it.
Yeah. Him and Melton, both are guys that there's promise there, but they were 7th round picks for a reason, right? That's why teams passed on him that many times until the Seahawks picked him up down in the 7th round. There was a lot of development that was needed. We saw some interesting things in the preseason from Young in terms of his physical talents and his inability to catch the football. Because there was a lot of drops, a lot of balls that hit him in the hands and ended up on the turf. And so we'll have to see with how he develops that way. But overall, if either one of them turns into a
serviceable
contributing player, again, that's a win for a 7th round draft pick.
So
most 7th round draft picks don't even make rosters.
So you just kind of gave that a little win grade or whatever. When you take a look at the draft class as a whole, Keith, and it's, we've gone through 12, 13 games now. It's okay to give this thing a grade, I think, in the first year. Where do you think Seattle stands as far as this draft class, this impact so far?
Well, they're a team that's way better than anyone expected, in part because they've got more rookies, more snaps by rookies than any other team. How can you not just say that this is been a great draft class? The 2 tackles, Woolen, Walker. I mean, you've got 5 starters or 4, and then Mafe. I guess I count Kobe Bryant as a starter because he's the nickel corner and he's playing 2/3 of the snaps. More than Cody Barton is. So you just put all that together. I mean, like, you got 5 starters and a key role player that looks like he's going to be a starter next year. That's a phenomenal draft.
And not only just starters, we're talking high-end starters.
Yeah. Well,
starters that would be starters on almost any team. Which is outstanding.
That's true, because it's one thing to start, but if you're bad, but that just means there's nobody behind you. When you got a guy like Woolen, he's a starter and he's a Pro Bowl level player. There isn't
Lucas
a team
is going to contend for offensive right tackle rookie. All rookie team.
Both of those 2 guys would start on almost any team that they got drafted by.
Yes.
Woolen and Lucas are both guys that could start for almost any team in the NFL.
Yeah. And Ken Walker probably, run for at least 3/4 of the teams out there, at least the second back out there. Kobe Bryant. I don't know. Kobe Bryant, I think that the tail of the tape is still out on Kobe Bryant for me. Is he really good right now? No. Could he be replaced next year by an upgrade if it worked out that way, either in the draft or in free agency? Maybe Kobe Bryant ends up being kind of a utilitarian guy that plays a little free safety now and again, a little slot corner, little nickel corner, and plays on the outside a little bit, and just kind of shifts all over the place. But they have a real good, solid nickel guy to come in. I don't know. Maybe Pete Carroll's probably extremely happy with his play, and I could be just completely wrong. It's really hard to evaluate that spot for me, because it's so in close quarters with so many other players involved. I don't know exactly where his fault lies and where other people are contributing to that, and he's just kind of having to deal with a bunch of stuff contributing to his play. But I think he's a smart player. He's a smart player, and I think they'll figure it out with him. But I just don't know yet on him.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things we're not down there on the field. We can't hear the communication happening by the defenders and stuff during the play. We don't know who's right, who's wrong when they're trying to communicate, and that is super important. This isn't just a physical game where maybe he's not fast enough or he's not long enough or anything like that. There's so much of the mental side of it, the communication side of it, the being able to, in 100th of a second, know what someone else is doing and know how to react to it and what that means with the scheme of all the people around you. There's a lot of mental that goes into being a good player in the NFL. So
well, I agree with you. I think this draft class has been a slam dunk. It's really been a pleasure to have these guys on the team and see their development and look forward to the years ahead. And then to be able to add to that pile in this coming draft, which just keeps getting better and better. Third overall pick in the NFL draft with Denver's pick. And then that high pick again in the second round. Just phenomenal. So, when you take a look and you plug away at the mock draft simulators, for example, you could easily come away with 5 players again that have an immediate impact on your roster and immediate starting potential in spots that you're at your weakest: defensive tackle, backup quarterback or starting quarterback of the future, safety, maybe strong safety. There's edge rusher, linebacker, center, etc. And those things line up pretty well in the draft for Seattle. So it'll be a lot of fun. All right, we're going to get out of here today and come back later in the week. We're going to have a preview of the Carolina Panthers coming to town to visit the Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold. Still getting opportunities out there. He's not a horrible quarterback. You go look at his tape, you go look at his play. He's done some good things for them at times, and other times when he doesn't get time in the pocket, he's not great.
Yeah, he's a guy that wants move him off his spot. He wants to take that 5-step drop and sit there and then make a throw. Move him off that spot and he starts to struggle.
Right. So that's the game plan. You nailed it already. We don't even have to have the show now.
Okay.
All right. You're going to find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can find me at NWC Hawk. You can find the show, find the podcast, find the YouTube channel, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you next time, guys. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NWC Hawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.